Forward then, guys, I think it's time for our reviews. And Muffy, what's out in cinemas this week?
So, as you may know, or if you don't know, I don't know how you don't know, unless you've got no social media, no phone, you don't go outside, basically you should know. Anyway, so Avengers Infinity Part 1 came out recently.
That's the official name.
Yeah, that's the official
Part
name.
1 Infinity.
Infinity, or Avengers 3, or whatever you may call it.
Whatever you want.
The 10th movie, not the 10th movie, the 10-year making story part of it. Anyway, it came out, and we were all super excited for it. We booked it 3 weeks in advance.
Yeah.
Luckily, we did that because the queue was just massive.
Wow.
Massive car parks and people queuing up. And
It took a good 15 minutes to try and get into that car park, and it was ridiculous, man.
Luckily, I found a car park, a car space just outside the car park, so I just parked in and just ran in.
Because there was, just to let you guys know, there was a ticket. The guy at the ticket barrier was threatening us that if Muffy doesn't make it by 8 o'clock,
Muffy put on the Mission Impossible soundtrack and just went for it.
Yeah, so the movie starts at like what half an hour trailer would mean it started at 8:10, but he threatened me even though I wasn't there to say if he's not here by 8, he's not getting in. And I said we've been waiting for 3 weeks. We booked it 3 weeks ago. You can't just tell me I'm not getting in. So anyway, I just ignored him and just went back in. Anyway, so we watched the movie anyway. so this movie is basically about Thanos. So over 10 years now, we've been building up to who is Thanos and how much of a bad villain is he, and is it really what we expected, etc. So what I want to do is not talk about overall thoughts first. I want to jump right into it. Yeah. So towards the end, again.
Wait! It's spoiler alert. Yeah.
Spoiler alert. I was there before you. So spoiler alert. We're obviously going to talk about the movie and what happened in the movie. So if you haven't watched it and you're watching and you're listening to this, well, you can listen to it if you want, but it's going to ruin it for you.
Yeah.
So towards the end, as he did in the comics, he snapped his fingers and half the universe died. So let's go right into it. Did you expect that? Ahmed, let's start with you.
Hell no. The bit when obviously because Thor threw his axe at him, he dug it in, and he kept trying to whisper Thanos. He kept trying to say something. And I thought, at that moment in my head, I was thinking he's going to do the reverse time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So when he said, you should have took him ahead, I thought he was going to reverse time. But when he went, I was in shock.
That's it, yeah.
I was in shock. To the point, initially I thought he failed. Because if you remember, he goes into sort of
His vision.
With Gamora, baby Gamora. Yeah. And then when it comes back, his hand's burnt, but nothing physically happens immediately. Yeah. So you kind of think, oh, did he fail? Is that what they're going to say? It never worked. But oh my god, what followed next?
Yeah, that was.
What followed next?
That was.
So you see, so you sort of see. Who do you see first? Was it Bucky?
I think it's Bucky. Yeah, Bucky's the first one.
You see first, and you think, okay, that's it now. Everyone's gonna die. So you just list your way and say, okay, Bucky's gone, Black Panther's gone. Who else was
Falcon?
gone?
I think.
Falcon went.
Yeah.
Half the Guardians.
Yeah, Groot. Star-Lord.
They whacked out the
Guardians. Yeah, the Guardians. Rocket's the only one left from the Guardians.
Yeah, And Nebula was not even a real Guardian.
Oh yeah. She's just like there for a bald head, and that's it, isn't it?
Pops her head in. You guys alright? Yeah, I'm gonna leave now. What about you, Chach?
Who's Chach? Oh yeah, you're damn right. It's Fairhead.
It's not Fairhead. It's Chach.
You must refer to me as White Wolf.
You're not White Wolf. If you are, you died in the movie. So.
Damn it. That's true. No, I really enjoyed the film. In the ending, I thought the film would end with Thanos just clicking his fingers and you wouldn't see any of the ramifications of what would actually happen. I thought it would click his fingers, cut to black.
That's it.
See you next summer, basically.
Yeah.
But I didn't expect to have that many emotions. But when you actually see kind of what happens to them, going forward in the future, that pretty much they'll come back. What I mean? But it still hit you, and I remember at the end of the film, everyone was just when the screen turned to black, everyone was in shock. No one said anything. The entire the audience was just quiet. No one kind of said anything. And the one that got me the most I think was my boy Peter Parker, Spider-Man, when he was like, I don't want to die. Oh, that was quite tough.
Tom Holland.
Yeah.
He died at the end.
Brilliant acting.
I know. But yeah, I'm really surprised by the ending. Thought it was really good. And one of the things I'll say to Marvel is, I'm glad that they had, the testicular fortitude, I'll say, to kind of go this route, because it's I would be a little disappointed if the film ended where Thor, he ended up killing Thanos, and then that was it, because there's no ramifications, there's no ending. But at least this way, things actually happened. Really impressed by the way they've done it.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'll echo both your thoughts. So I was just shocked. I was just sat there thinking, no, what are you doing? Stop dying. So you see Bucky dying, you think, okay, 1, you need 2. It's like, you could just get rid of the useless lot and then just leave the Avengers back in there. But they just decided to just get rid of all the let's call them the new Avengers, and leave the OG, which is probably not a coincidence.
Yeah,
obviously.
That's what a surprise. The 6 Avengers from
the Avengers Assemble. They're reassembling now.
You mean 5 because the 6th guy never appeared.
Yeah,
he's coming back.
You don't know, man.
We'll talk about that later. But yeah, it just completely shocked me. For me, one thing I'd mention is that I didn't expect Thanos to get all 6 stones initially. Yeah. And when he did get all 6 stones, I thought maybe he'd just go off to his own world and think about his next plot. Yeah. Or his next, because he's already killed, at that point, he's already killed Loki, Heimdall, Vision, and Gamora. Yeah. So that's basically, especially the Gamora scene.
Yeah, that was...
It's a massive impact in it. So if you stopped there, it would have been a fantastic movie as it was. Yeah. But they decided to take it one step further by killing half the universe. Yeah. I mean, that ending was
I've been reading a lot of stuff saying that it's like the Empire Strikes Back of the Marvel Universe, and I agree. I mean, Empire Strikes Back ends with, Han Solo getting frozen in carbonite, and it's just like a weird ending. It just kind of ends, and this film is kind of very similar to that in the sense like, it was a complete film, but it kind of ends on a bit of a sad note, and the beauty of the film is you don't really know how they're gonna what are they gonna do with Thanos now. He's kind of achieved what he wants to do, and it's a brilliant ending the way they've kind of done it.
So just to follow on from that, my next question would be Thanos. Yeah. And is he what you expected in the movie? Better. Over 10 years, we've seen who this Thanos is, and we kept hearing about him and how he's the biggest villain within the MCU universe, etc. Is he what you expected?
I'm just gonna ask one question.
Oh, yeah, asking me a question now.
Yeah. Well, not you. Maybe
who are you, Kevin the Riddler or something?
I'm just gonna ask Kevin Feige and the guys. Why did you show up in Avengers the first one? Because that guy is the definition of badass. Yeah. He is on. You know what? Beforehand, before the film coming up to we talked about him plenty of times. The movie and what do you think? And we just had a great villain in Black Panther and whatnot. Dude, the guy, what's his name? Josh Brolin. Yeah. They did it justice. But what they did really well and worked for me a lot as well was they used Gamora to humanize him, and that was brilliant because that scene when he killed Gamora, that was powerful, man. Yeah, that was powerful. But you know what? It's you'll go away and you'll think about him years later, and the Mad Titan is the perfect name for him. Yeah. He's got a reason. He's explaining it to you. You understand why. He thinks it's a perfectly fine, normal reason. Yeah. But he's crazy for thinking that way. Yeah. You know what I mean? But I think they've topped it. I don't think they'll top Thanos.
I think he's one of the things I was speaking to the guys about before. Once we were just kind of, I'll be honest, after we watched the film, we were kind of just sitting down and chilling out, and we were just all in shock, to be honest with you, a little bit. But one of the things I did say is that Marvel have really upped their villains in the past year. I think in the past year, Ego, I liked probably Ego a little bit more than most people did as a villain. Okay. Vulture was a great villain. Hela was a pretty good villain. Eric Killmonger was a great villain, really good villain, and then you've just got Thanos, who for me, takes the prize as kind of the best villain. Exceeded my expectations. Really impressed with him. The animation and the motion capture that they used really kind of pushed it to a whole new level. I think Thanos is that good of a villain. He beat the Incredible Hulk into a pulp, and he didn't want to come back up again the rest of the film. God, kind of shows how much of a badass he is.
So just coming back to Thanos and what a villain should be. He's the epic villain. He is what, because he's not just a villain that's just aggressive and just nonsensical, just goes out and knocks people out and tries to destroy everything. He has a genuine reason that he believes, that what happened to Titan was an imbalance in amount of people and resources and stuff like that. So he didn't want that to happen again. So in his mind, he thought, I need to go down this route of basically destroying half the universe so that the rest of the universe can survive.
Yeah.
And obviously you go away and think about it. You think, you know what? Maybe he's a bit of he's a lunatic in the way he thinks about things and the way he wants to do it. But it's that human nature of it, isn't it? And the relationship between him and Gamora was just fantastic.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I want to touch on as well is we see Thanos for the first time at the end of Guardians 1, I think it is.
Avengers 1, I think.
Avengers 1, sorry. Yeah. Avengers 1. And his face is it's more CGI, if you know what I mean. CGI, if that's a word. But in this movie, he's basically a human just with a mask on top. So you can actually see his emotions. He cries in the movies while he's got tears when he's dragging Gamora down and pushing off the cliff. So it's not just a villain, as in an aggressive villain who you just hate. You sort of love and hate him at the same time.
That's true.
So I mean, he's a fantastic villain.
The thing is, comparing him to the reason, firstly, for that is Josh Brolin wasn't cast back then.
Yeah, it was someone else.
He was cast after, so I think they just CGI'd the character. But
we're gonna give it up to Mark Ruffalo that said, you know, you'd be stupid to take it down, because I had a phone call before he actually accepted it, because they're friends. And Mark Ruffalo, so Josh Brolin said to him, like, you know, what do you think, should I take it? And Mark Ruffalo said to him, you know, you'd be stupid not to take it. And that's how that worked out. That's how that worked out, basically.
I think the other thing as well is with him, he's the conclusion. What makes it so unique and so brilliant is he's won, and he's not there like a typical villain now, laughing and bellowing out. He's just almost like a hero.
Yeah.
He's gone away, kind of like a gladiator feel, going through the fields, and he's just sat there with a smile, thinking, you know what I've done.
Did you notice how in the film it almost echoed Black Panther towards the ending, where at the end of Black Panther, spoiler alert for Black Panther, Eric Killmonger obviously dies, but he dies watching a sunset.
Yes.
Like, he dies and he's full of hatred and you know, anger against kind of, you know, because he feels like he's, you know, him and his people are being belittled and cheated and all that stuff. Whereas this film ends with, in a similar way, in which Thanos is looking at the sun sort of rise, or sunset, or whatever it was. However, he's content, you know what I mean, he's happy. One of the things I want to touch on really quickly, guys, how do you feel they balance the teams and the individual characters in the films? I mean, I've heard quite a bit of criticism, unjust criticism, I feel, in terms of the film, that they say, oh, not all the, like Captain America, for example, he's one of the leading Avengers, but he doesn't have the biggest role in this film for amazing character arcs. So we'll talk about our best scenes in a second, but Captain America, you know, he was sidelined in this film, but I feel as though there's a reason for that. You can get the resolution in the next film. I feel there's been a bit of criticism about some of the character interactions that I don't really think are fair. So I mean, what are your thoughts on how they balance all the characters and the individual teams?
That's exactly what I was going to go on to next, actually.
Oh, brilliant.
The different groups and dynamics. For me, the movie was about Thanos. So it's basically a biopic about Thanos and his goals and his, you know, aspirations and what he wants to do and what he and how he wants to get to where he wants to get to. The other part of it was sort of not a side story, but it's sort of it's like I'm trying to think of an acronym, but like imagine a house basically, and you've got the center that supports it,
the foundation or whatever.
The foundation that supports it. Everything else is basically layers on top that makes it into a nice house, and that's where I think of it. Is if you don't need to give those characters that character development, because Captain America's had 3 movies, Iron Man's had 3 movies. Thor's had 3 movies, so you don't need the character development in that movie because you know who they are, you know where they're from, you know the different dynamics within the group themselves. You've had Avengers Assemble, Avengers Age of Ultron, where it's just about the Avengers, so you don't need that dynamic again within the movie. Otherwise, you're taking away from Thanos.
And you also got to realise as well, you know, everyone knows that Avengers, whatever the 4th film is going to be called, is coming out next year, and you know that they'll probably focus on Thanos a little bit less and the main Avengers a little bit more as well, which is why I'm not bothered by it. But I love the way they balance the characters. I felt the interactions were great. Thor and the Guardians of the Galaxy, the price of admission is worth that alone. Just with that interaction, is hilarious.
No, I mean the thing is, you guys, you've echoed it perfectly. There's no way you can have a great villain, great moments for other characters without it being at the cost of some. There's a reason why the movie ends with the original Avengers. I know the Russo brothers said it's not a 2-part film, but now we know it is basically a 2-part film. And having said that, I understand why people like Captain America haven't had much screen time, or why people like Hawkeye aren't even in the film, because the next one probably will be their farewell piece. That will be them. Because if you think about it, all the important beats for Captain America don't come into this film.
Yeah,
so
him and Tony reuniting.
Yeah, so them two reuniting, burying the hatch. Him himself figuring out if he's going to be Captain America. During the film, we picked up on, he refers to himself as Steve Rogers.
Yeah.
That's about it. But again, we'll have to see how that goes. But without a shadow of a doubt, Thor and the Guardians.
Oh, yes.
Brilliant. I think, and again, this is a credit to the Russo brothers. They could have gone with their interpretation of Thor from the previous Thor films, but they didn't. They kept the evolution of all the characters together. I've heard one criticism against Drax, which is, he's just become a comedy piece. He's not as strong. Okay, he's not, but it works so well.
And he still did have his little moment where he kind of went after him as well, which is my big thing. I mean, every character, even if it's not a big thing, they do have like a bit of a moment. Like War Machine, for example, Rhodey. He has like an amazing explosion that he does near the end of the film, but at the same time, his character beat, he does have a bit at the beginning where he goes against Thunderbolt Ross, and it's like, court martial me, or whatever it is exactly that he says. So they do have their own kind of things there, but what are standout scenes for you guys? I mean, for me at least, the two that are like, obviously everything with Thanos aside, because all of his scenes are great, and Red Skull meeting him again, all that kind of stuff was amazing. But for me, number one, Captain America's introduction in the film was amazing. I love that scene. And then number two, Thor arriving in the Battle of Wakanda when the music swells up and he just goes to town and everyone freaks out.
He's got Groot on his shoulder.
That is a poster we need to get.
My favourite bit would probably be the Thor bit, because I'm going to say it now. When that scene happened and Thor came down to Earth, I actually clapped. I ain't going to say it, I'm going to lie, but I actually clapped.
It's weird as well, because in the UK, for you guys who aren't obviously watching in the UK, people are very reserved in the cinemas. I know in America people clap and cheer all the time and stuff. In the UK it's very different, everyone's very quiet and stuff. But I'll be honest, you can feel the buzz of everyone, and there's a couple of moments where I actually clapped in the film as well, so as bad as it is to say.
What was your favourite moment?
I mean, the first one's got to be Thor, his entry. That is by far the... I think the last time I've had a goosebumps or wanted to jump out screaming was probably Lord of the Rings, the third one in this film. But you know what? In terms of other beats, you've got other ones, but so many that I could go on all day. Even the smaller bits like Captain America and Black Panther's in unofficial race, so to speak, where they get into the front line. You've got the parts where at the beginning, even for example, the beatdown, where Thanos is just he sort of immediately introduced them to us, or the Gamora's history, where you've got the guy in the background, I forgot his name, like the magician for Black Order.
Oh, Ebony Maw.
Ebony
Maw is sort of, he's reciting like a religious, you're going to be killed by the Black Order, be honoured.
He was a standout character as well.
Oh, he was brilliant. He was brilliant.
The Black Order, he was best.
But I think the stand-up moment, that is one of them. But I'd say the close second, difficult, but probably is between Iron Man's 101 against Thanos and Doctor Strange 101. And Doctor Strange 101.
But obviously, the biggest stand-up moment that tops all of them is the ending of the film. Let's not get it twisted. The action was great and everything, but you know the crux.
We were silent.
We
were silent. You couldn't. There was nothing you could do at all about it.
So I mean, obviously, I guess in the movie they were all split, weren't they?
Yeah.
So you've got Doctor Strange, Spider-Man, and Iron Man. And you've got Thor, Rocket and Groot. You've got, I guess, Thanos and Gamora in some scenes. You've got Captain America, Scarlett Johansson, Black Widow, Bucky. So out of all those different dynamics, would you say, I guess for me it'd be Thor, Rocket and Groot?
Theirs was the funniest, but the good thing about the film is that it balanced everything. Like, balance is the word to kind of use to describe this on what Thanos wants to do. But Thor had the funniest kind of interactions with the team. However, the heroes on Earth didn't have as much to do in the film, but Iron Man had the more kind of the serious stuff. So I think they just balanced everything kind of perfectly, if I'm honest with you, in terms of the teams.
That's the thing. I think the team ups you'd want to see, you'd see Captain America and Black Panther's lot. Again, not as much to do, but their team up, and then you had Iron Man, Doctor Strange, which was a really good chemistry.
Actually, that's one of the ones. My other favorite, I just remembered it now. The battle between Thanos and Doctor Strange, I thought would stand out as well.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
Yeah, I thought that would
Brilliant.
really stand out.
Yeah.
But let's move on to
What about weaknesses? I mean, is there anything
Weakness-
that you can kind of criticize? The only thing that I can think of, and it isn't really a weakness per se, it's more of a nitpick. And maybe I don't know if it was like an issue and just not watching enough of the movies, but correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but I remember in Guardians of the Galaxy 1, the Power Stone is kind of the big MacGuffin in that film.
Yeah.
And I know that, that Power Stone is so powerful. I mean, Thanos can, pull a planet, or not a planet, a moon, and, all that kind of stuff in the film. However, in the film, with regards to Iron Man, he just punches him and Iron Man goes fine, but Iron Man still survives. So there's a little bit...
saying he's not using it to his
Yeah,
potential.
it's a little bit of... The stones are convenient when they need to be convenient. They depower them in certain times and they don't. But that's like a very small nitpick for me, and that's kind of one of the few things I think that's.
I think for me, a part of that is he doesn't know how to unlock the full potential.
Yeah,
Or
but you
the
say
house,
that,
the
you say
physical
that,
house,
but
maybe, I don't know.
then a second later he's pulling a moon. You know what I mean? In the same battle as he's fighting Iron Man. So